you may only be the second or third Nashville-based individual to come on the podcast, so yeah, it's a big deal.
Good. Let's do it, baby.
Yeah.
Onshore this. Get folks in the zip code, in the area code.
That's right, that's right. I know that's a big vision and goal of yours, and,
Mhm.
so Sam, CEO of the Nashville Entrepreneurship Center here in, obviously, Nashville. Big deal. Yeah, I saw you'll be hitting your 3-year mark as the CEO of the center coming up this summer, which is a big deal, and there's been a lot. Man, I moved here 3 years ago, and I
Mhm.
got introduced to the Nashville Entrepreneur Center just last summer, actually, just from some leadership groups and networking groups I'm a part of. And so I came down and visited and got to learn what it was all about. But no, man, you do a lot of things. You've been on the board, you speak, you were out of high school this morning. I mean, you're all around trying to encourage entrepreneurs and giving people the tools. But man, share your story a little bit about just kind of your growth and how you became the CEO of the Entrepreneur Center.
Yeah, happy to do that, and always happy to be on here with you. I grew up in Nashville. I'm one of those rare folks. I mean, we're talking how comparatively little time you guys have been here, but obviously you're like you and your wife are the prototypical Nashville story now of came here, saw it, was like, why not, and loving it, jumping in here with both feet. But my family moved here when I was in second grade, so I wasn't born here. I do want to clear that up. So technically not a native, but at this point, people are like, ah, close enough. Spent time here, saw the city grow. My parents are still here. My sisters are still here. Love Nashville. Growing up here, obviously, yeah, of course, it's way different. But also, when you're growing up, you're a teenager, you're playing baseball, like you don't care about farm to table food. You don't care about other things like that that we can enjoy as grown-ups. But Nashville is a hotbed for entrepreneurship. I have that story. When I moved back after college, worked in a hotel and hotel management for a couple of years, worked at a nonprofit organization for a couple of years. But all the way back in 2006, I had my first idea for a company. And if you want to walk back down memory lane 20 years, I mean, 2006, that's when YouTube first launched. Facebook was only for college kids. Instagram, Twitter didn't even exist. And nonprofits, especially, were slow to embrace new technology. I saw this because I was working inside one and went to a coworker of mine. I just said, man, what if there was a way to leverage all this new media to connect with a younger audience who is using it and who is deeply committed to causes. This is a very socially aware generation. So we built a business to solve that problem. And I had no business background. I was a history major, didn't think I would ever be an entrepreneur. But for us, the answer to the problem was a company. And when the answer is a company, now you can be an entrepreneur. And so through that process of setting up that company, building that website, it was a connection point called Cool People Care, and so we ended up growing a mailing list close to 30,000 people. We had nonprofit event volunteer calendars in 23 cities, and we got to ride a rocket ship a little bit. Got to raise money, got to hire people for the first time. And I took a minute and I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is what I want to do. Not necessarily run this company, but have an idea, make it real that solves a problem. And that seemed a lot of fun. And so ended up doing three more companies since then, but that was my first taste of it. And I never wanted to do anything differently.
Yeah. No, it's incredible, and I was gonna specifically ask about that company because that was the one that stuck out to me on your LinkedIn profile, which is how I got introduced to you, and, you jumped right in and answered that, so that's pretty cool. Sam, what have you seen because I'm in my young 30s, and it's I've worked corporate jobs, and now, Books for Guys is really my entrepreneurial
Awesome.
project that I'm building, and it's really been fun. I'm starting to meet people. I'm starting to build something, and it's mine, and I have ownership. And I'm like you, man. I'm learning things on the daily where I'm like, I don't know what to do here. But what have you seen over? It seems for me, I kind of got the itch, kind of post COVID when I had a lot of downtime. And I remember talking to a lot of people, and people started. It seemed like people had time to get creative and start building things. And with you in this role, just over the last 3 years, have you seen a big uptick, I guess, in just people with these technologies, social media? I guess just what's been your vision from 20 years ago to now as far as seeing people get into the space and try to build their own thing?
It's growing like crazy, and that's not just in Nashville. There's a lot of reasons it's working well in Nashville, and I would encourage anybody who wants to do something to do it in Nashville. But nationally, we are seeing more business starts, and there's a couple of different ways that's measured. Some they're only tracking if you intend to hire employees. Others are just new business formation based on either issuing an EIN or an LLC, whatever the corporate setup may be. So we're seeing that the highest year prior was 2021, coming out of COVID ish. Saw a record number of closures in 2020, record number of openings in 2021. But we've still been high since then. We're still indexing pre-COVID even now in 2026 because I never say it's easy to start a business, but it's easier to start a business. Because to your point, what you can do with AI, how you can build followings, you can be real efficient. For me, that means you can fail real fast. Because I think prior to a lot of these technologies, you had to spend some time, which means money and opportunity cost, to figure out if your idea was even going to work. But now you can do that and have success faster too. You mentioned I spoke at a high school this morning, and it's a good Q&A, and one of the students said, if you're going to do one thing right now, because he was in high school, he's like, oh, I have a company idea. And I hated to say it because I hate social media, but I'm on it too much. But I was like, build a following. And again, it doesn't have to be Instagram influencer, TikTok, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you're doing that with this podcast. And you can figure out later how you monetize it or what it means to you from a satisfaction or a monetary standpoint, but just building it through all these new media. I mean, you didn't code riverside.com that we're doing here. But it's because it exists, you and lots of other creators can jump on there. So that's awesome. We are seeing more people come through the EC now than ever before. And we are seeing across all age ranges, industries, and stage. So if you walk into our building, you're not going to see a bunch of 20-year-olds. You'll see some of them, but you'll see people in their 40s and 50s and even 60s who are like, yep, I had that career. It was great. Saved some money, had a meaningful time, learned a lot, but now I'm ready to work for me. And their intent may be to leverage new technology to do something that fits with their lifestyle. And people say, oh, this is a lifestyle. Lifestyle businesses are, give me a lifestyle business. That sounds amazing. So there's nothing to poo poo on that. It's just, what do you want to do? This is your one life. This is your one time. So let's max it out with something that's meaningful to you.
Yeah. No, and I love that. I'm gonna bring up there was another, you may have gone and spoken down too, and I was pulling it up. The Williamson County School District, they have an entrepreneurship
They do.
program down
Jeremy's
there.
doing an awesome job down there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a
So
great
Jeremy
place.
Qualls is who I've been around a
Yeah.
lot, and actually we gave some books to some of the students that were going through the program
Good.
last summer as we got introduced to them. But seeing all the things going on at the high school level to encourage curiosity, personal development,
Yes.
give you tools to do what you want, it just seems there's this massive push to be able to do that. And you're right, there's so many tools to be able to do that. And obviously the Entrepreneur Center here in Nashville, it's if you haven't been, it's amazing. I mean, it's massive. There's podcast studio, there's a cafe, there's all these workrooms, and it's really cool how it's set up because man, again, as I got introduced, I started when I was networking, I'd be like, "Oh, you're part of the center. Oh, you're an advisor at the center."
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of community involvement with it, but it's really cool how it's structured for someone like me to go in and be like, "Hey, here's what I'm doing. You know, what do I do?" And there's so many resources I can go get and so many people that can pour into me to help guide me along the way. Obviously, entrepreneurship is thriving in Nashville, which is cool to see. But let me ask you this: how do you, as it grows, and you specifically mentioned like AI, what are you guys doing? Do you, on a yearly basis or even maybe biannually, sit down and say, like, okay, hey, what's our approach here to help people in the community as more members join? And maybe the AI has changed some things in what people are building. So maybe the people coming through, they're doing things that are more geared towards needing AI support. How do you go about, from an overall view as the CEO, structure things to make sure you stay ahead and can help people as business ideas change?
Oh yeah, I'll give you a. I'll talk sort of abstract, and then I'll give you a real world example that we've done here. We are almost halfway done with a 3-year strategic plan. That our big goal there is to work with 1,000 entrepreneurs annually. We worked with 537 last year. We're on pace to do about 800 this year, and then hopefully 1,000 next year. And a lot of that's the work we're doing to find these folks who need the help. And then a lot of that is, again, just as Nashville grows or as people say, like, I got an idea, let me try this. Here's a real world example of how we stay relevant. When I came here, we had an accelerator called pre-flight. So we use aviation metaphor. We have 3 accelerators that use that: pre-flight, takeoff, in-flight. So different stages of your business. Pre-flight was designed for, I have an idea, let me get it on paper to see if I really want to do this. And the old format was in person over 6 to 8 months. It was in the evenings because people with ideas, usually they also have day jobs. And we just saw the attendance of that wane because you didn't need that long to see if your idea was going to be worth something. And it was also hard because you were working a day job, maybe had a family, so to get somewhere. And so for 2 years, we moved that into a virtual self-paced option. We took the 9 modules, we put them online, paired them with videos, and we had almost 200 people do that on their own. They could do it all in a weekend. You could set aside time every week for 9 weeks, whatever you want to do. At the end of it, if you did it, you would be able to say, okay, my barbecue sauce idea, my software idea, this is what it's going to take. Do I want to do that? Cash in my 401k, quit my day job, find this many customers. But we heard on demand from those folks who are like, I'd still like to connect with people at the same stage. I'd still like to listen to people who have done that or mentors who could advise. So we just now brought that back. You still do the 9 modules, but then we have a 4 virtual sessions to really dive deeper on those. And it's been a huge success. We went ahead, we piloted, we're in the pilot right now, close to 16 people doing that. And most of those folks are going to say at the end of it, nope, not yet, or not for me, never mind. Or, I had no idea that's what it's going to take. Great. That's part of our job too, is to talk people out of things sometimes. And so that's the way that we modified that curriculum. And the folks who are going to do it, they're going to hit a couple benchmarks, then they can come into our traditional 12-week every Monday accelerator, graduate up the food chain there. And so that's it, by sort of taking our own medicine and saying, what are we going to do? Now, the last piece I'll say though, those numbers that we want to hit, we'll leverage technology to do that, of course. But place is still powered by community. We talk about the EC, the Entrepreneur Center. It's really the entrepreneur community, because we have 200 volunteer mentors that make this place happen. I can't meet with 800 entrepreneurs a year. Even my staff of 15 can't meet with them all, because a lot of what they need is talking to an expert, somebody who has a subject matter industry expertise, who can sit with them and say, okay, here's some ideas, here's some advice, try this, don't do this. I made that mistake. Oh, I want you to make it too. And that's what drives this place, is the deep community connections we create here.
Yeah, that's cool. And I'll start calling it the NEC. It's a lot easier to say
There you go. There you go.
now that we've gotten the name out there
Yeah.
a couple times. And now when people reference it in the community, I'm like, yep, I know what you're talking
Yep.
about.
Yeah, I've been there.
It's crazy how big of a pillar it is, though, especially when you do get out and network with certain
Mhm.
groups. I mean, everyone knows about the NEC. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that because again, I've only been here 3 years. I was an entrepreneur as the EC was being created, coming out of the ground. And always, I was a volunteer here. I've always loved it, and so it is an honor to do this. And that's a testament. We're 15 years old now, to the folks who thought up this idea in 2007. 75 city leaders came together, to our founding team, founding CEO Michael Burcham in 2010, who got this thing created. And then in 2012, when we're in this renovated 100-year-old building, when that happened and all the work then, so like, to the point that has been the idea. It's not to be the only, but to be at least the first stop for a lot of people. And again, part of our job is to say, oh yeah, this other resource in this part of town is going to help you better. I'll do an intro as you're on your way. That's some of our functioning too, but absolutely people powered and the people who came before us.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Sam, I got a question for you that maybe you've got to answer in a maybe a safe way,
All
but
right.
you're entrepreneurial, and
Mhm.
so obviously now as the leader of this group, your mission is to grow it, expand it and grow. Do you, I guess for you personally, long-term vision for yourself, what's your vision as far as being able to continue to scratch that itch of your own personal entrepreneurial, I guess, projects and things you want to accomplish, but also balancing of leading this particular organization to the next level? Do you have to jump all in and this has to be your only focus and you see that for the next 5 to 10 years? Are you able to do your own things if you get an idea? Or do you see yourself at some point, this gets to a point where you say, great, gonna pass it off. I've got my own business adventures I'm gonna jump to. And you may not know, but I'm just curious, just with you being the way you are, what that looks like in your world.
No, I appreciate the question. It is funny how I'm starting, now that I've been here almost 3 years. People are asking me that question more and more, and I'm sort of like, y'all want me to leave? Like, what's going on? I'm
Yeah.
not. This is not working. Man, I love this job. I serve at the pleasure of the board, and so it gives me enough scratch of the entrepreneurial itch, I guess, because we get to do our own stuff like that, like I mentioned. And it is the perfect intersection of what I love doing, which is taking time for stuff like this, speaking at the high school, being with my team, getting to address a room full of entrepreneurs. So to me, like right now, and there's some cool stuff that we are working on more and more to help more people start more companies. So I'm still excited about that. I think we would have to get to some kind of maintenance mode, some kind of like, okay, 1,000's enough, or let's take it down a notch. I don't know why we would do that hypothetically. We are, I mentioned we're just started year 2 of our strategic plan. We will start work on the one that'll carry us through 2030. I would love to see that through, just because there's some fun stuff where we're situated. I mean, I look out my window and there are 2 towers, corporate office towers. There's a big apartment complex. And when the EC moved into this location in the trolley barn south of downtown, these were surface parking lots. And so we are going to have questions to answer about what does it mean to be in a neighborhood now, because we never really were. We were near Pinewood Social, so people would be around here. But now that you've got 8 floors of office, 6 floors of office, 27 floors of residential, there are people around us. So what do we do with that? So there's some fun questions. There's Nashville girls involved. I asked you to move this meeting because I had to get back from all the way west side of town. And I was just I was like, don't hit traffic. Don't let nobody have a wreck. Nobody have a wreck. Because I mean, you were in Atlanta. You really know. Based on the time of day, man, you could spend an hour getting from A to B. So I'm like, what does that mean for entrepreneurs if you can't get here? So those are all fun questions. And I think it'll give me a chance to be entrepreneurial. Also, man, I see people grinding here and I love it. And then part of me feels immediately exhausted because I remember it's exciting, but it's exhausting
Yeah.
to like that very early stage, which is what I love the most. But you got to be ready for it. And I don't have that itch anymore, I don't think.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad. I mean, you kind of described it probably like I expected, just
Yeah.
from the progression of your life, your career, what you're doing. You get to be around it enough to feel the energy, but
Yeah.
you don't have to do that grind day to
Hmm.
day like some of the members you see doing. But it is cool. It seems like there's with so much growth potential, and there seems to be a lot of flexibility to be able to go ebb and flow with where you see this,
Yes.
and maybe there's a second location opened on the other side of town because of
Right.
Nashville growing. Like, all the possibilities are there, and that probably keeps things interesting for you to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, who knows what this is gonna look like in 5 years?"
That's right.
There's so many things we could do, and so I think that's probably a great position to be in.
It's wonderful, man. And I think that's even the how entrepreneurs are educated or supported is changing. And so I've gotten a chance to meet and get to know and network with a lot of my peers in other cities. And so whether they've come to Nashville or if I travel somewhere, I'm like that nerdy guy who's like, "Oh man, Charleston, South Carolina, Miami, Florida. Like, where is there an EC here? Can I go? I'm gonna go tour that real quick. You guys, I'll meet you at the beach. I'm gonna go talk shop. That's what I love doing and seeing how they're doing it there because it is different city to city based on the resources, the industry, etc. But there's one sister organization that made a pivot. I mentioned we have accelerators. These are 12-week modules. Some they abandoned it. They were like, man, entrepreneurs need too many different things that it's all bespoke. So if Chris comes in, we sit down with Chris and we're like, all right, here's where you are, here's where you want to go, here's the things you need. We're gonna line up you with these meetings. It's all like customized, very concierge. And they're seeing better outcomes. And so you have to think like if we want better outcomes, even if it's fewer entrepreneurs, do we go that model? It's a different staffing. You can leverage technology. So to me, those are fascinating conversations.
Yeah. Do you see other cities, obviously what Nashville's doing and what you're doing, it's incredible. Do you
Mhm.
see other cities doing as good of a job? Or like, what's it like having peers in different cities and bouncing those ideas? Do you think there's a lot? Are there other cities doing things that you want to implement here? Or are you seeing I don't want you to rank it because Nashville's number one,
I
obviously.
was gonna say, yeah, I'm still gonna steal people all day long to move up here.
But do you see other cities being successful doing something similar?
I do, and I'll tell you why they're doing well. Number one, I'll give you examples of each of these. But number one, they understand where they are, so they're not trying to grow companies in an industry where they're not going to do well in. They understand the kinds of entrepreneurs that are already there. Two awesome examples. One is in Lakeland, Florida. Lakeland is halfway in between Orlando and Tampa. They'll get a lot of young families. There's some colleges there, but not a ton of industries, except Publix is headquartered there. So they have some generous benefactors who wanted people to stay. They're in college, they're first starting out their careers, then they eventually go to a bigger city for all the amenities. They invested a lot of money. They built a 4-story like EC on steroids, and it's awesome. And one of the places they came and looked was the EC along other cities. But they have a makerspace, high-end makerspace, and a commercial kitchen on the first floor. Like I don't have any making facilities in our building. I'm jealous of it when I've gone down there to see it because they know with Publix right there, that's a great way to get your product nationwide. And so they're like, well, people got to make it at scale. Boom. They have co-working, they have meeting, they have offices, they have event space, they have all the other stuff, but they're leaning into that. Number two, I would say is Chattanooga. And so my peer down there, Tashia is her name. Chattanooga is not trying to be the healthcare capital. They've like, yeah, now the Nashville do that. Chattanooga is all in on mobility, on quantum computing. And a lot of that's just who they are and who they're able to attract, and the resources are lining up. So that's one thing I'm seeing is what is that specialty that they can
Yeah.
be best in, and they're getting people moving there now for that, which is great for the city. The second big thing that folks do is they build an ecosystem as they're building their organization. So of course it's natural to want to be territorial and to say, no, 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 I'm working, you can't work with them, I'm gonna work with them. But the cities that are winning and the centers that are winning in those cities are ones that are like, oh no, we can't do it all. Even though we're the biggest in terms of footprint, however you want to measure it, we can never be the only. Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine how many buildings I need, how much money I'd have to raise. So we play really well in Nashville. And so I love seeing that in other markets where somebody says, oh yeah, we focus on capital raising, equity capital raising. People come to us. If they need debt financing or they want to learn business basics, we send them down the street to this other org. And so those that have a less territorial view and know that helping any entrepreneur, anybody who helps any entrepreneur helps the city, the community, and helps all entrepreneurs. Those are the ones that are creating those communities around it. Is awesome to see as well. Grand Rapids, Michigan, is doing a good job of that amongst different stakeholders, I would say. And then Greenville, South Carolina, is one that I've had a chance to get to, and then Charlotte. And so there's some good stuff happening in North Carolina
Yeah.
across those ecosystems.
Yeah, very cool. I've actually been to Lakeland, Florida, believe it or
There
not.
you
So,
go.
yeah, I've been there, been through. I've stayed there before actually on a work trip. So
That's awesome.
not many people mention it.
No,
No. Well, Sam, just one more kind of geared question for you, just books for guys related, and it may be a tough question because I see a bunch of books behind you there.
yeah, we can get to those too. We can go. I can
Yeah,
go walk
I'm
back there
sure
and
you're
show them
very
all.
well read and have done a lot of reading for personal development and probably all kinds of stuff. But I'm curious to know, what is a book or two that has meant a lot to you personally or professionally? And what are some books that you like to recommend to others when asked?
You bet, man. I do love to read, and I'm on a mission this year. That's why when I was so excited when you reached out, I was like, yes, I want to talk about books. I love to read, always have. Last year, I just barely read, man, and I could feel it. Now, some of that, I was busy in certain ways. I get it. Some of that, I was just, scrolling my phone, just mindlessly, and it makes me so unhappy. And you still do it, but I've set limits now because I was like, well, I'm just sitting here. Like, why don't I read something? So anyway, I've been on a mission this year. First quarter this year, I read 16 books. So I'm just eating stuff up, man. And it is by some simple, the discipline of it, of having a book handy, of either setting aside time or just stealing time when you're waiting on something, waiting for the cable guy to come or whatever it is to read a book. And you'll feel so much better. You'll be so much smarter. And a lot of those simple principles come from my number one favorite book. I read it the first book of the year. I read every year is Atomic Habits by James. Just a phenomenal book. The first time I read it, so now I've read it 7, maybe 8 times. Every single year, it's book number one. And just if you implement one thing he says in there, it'll change not just how productive you are for productivity's sake, but I think you'll be really living into the values and the kind of person you want to be. That's really what the book's about. It's about becoming the kind of person you want to be. So that's always first and foremost up there that I like to recommend to folks. I tend not to reread books, but I like to sort of skim over and look at a couple different books or folks. The ones that I've got, I'm looking up here too. You can't see them on camera, but I've got a couple that if I go to like a used bookstore, I see these at like a thrift shop and they're cheap, I'll just buy them because I give them away. And so Atomic Habits is one of those good to great, if we want to stick in the business side for a minute. Good to great, you can argue 20, almost 30 years later, are the principles the same? It doesn't matter. The things again, that will teach you from a business standpoint of the kind of company you want to create is great. I've got 6 copies right there. If someone wants to come snag one. The other one that I do is the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. That's another practical one. If you are a business owner and your business, the work in your business is preventing you from growing the business. So people say work on the business, not in the business. Well, fine. It's just the fact that, man, we're doing well, but I would no way we're going to get bigger. It's a really good practical kind of framework that I recommend that I give to folks. Non-business wise, I rarely read novels. I love to read poetry just because it's a great balance between like case study, data, marketing, graphs, and then you're reading this. So Billy Collins and David White are 2 of my favorite poets. When I see something new from them, I'll grab it as quick as I can. Love those folks, and both of them are still active writers and putting stuff out, which is a lot of fun. So I think those are folks how I like to balance it with what I'm reading. Yeah, everything behind me, the top shelf I've read through a little bit right here on the second shelf, and then everything else on the second shelf, I got to get to those still.
Yeah.
So 16 so far this year. I probably won't finish, but we'll make some headway into it. Hopefully, I'm reading this book right now on capital. It's the history of capitalism because this guy's coming to talk in Nashville in a couple weeks. I was like, oh, I'll read his book. It
Yeah.
shows up. It's 1,000 pages, and I'm like, what have I done to myself? I was cranking through these, 200, 300-page book, and this thing shows up, and I'm like, and here's my fatal flaw. And this is the advice I would give you guys because I'm told I need to do this.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to stop a book. I'll turn off a movie or a TV show or a song in a second, but if I don't like it, but a book, I'm like, oh, I got to keep going. I got to keep reading. And everybody who also loves reading is like, you idiot. You're wasting time on something. And I'm like, I still can get something from it. But I've just hit page 100. So I have 900 pages on the history, but it's like, it's really well written. Like it's actually compelling.
Yeah.
So that's the reading habits. The last thing I'll say, because I get a big community guy, talk about community, is read with other people. I don't mean like sit in a circle. Reading is this interesting thing where, of course, it's deeply solitary. You can do it anywhere. It's quiet. My 6-year-old's learning to read. It's awesome to watch him just like race headlong into that. He loves it. but I think it is something we were meant to do in community, whether it's physically there, you read to me, but hey, Chris, I'm reading this. Here's what I'm learning. What are you reading? And I think especially the more that guys can do that. Only 25% of Americans read at least one book a year, and I think that's even lower for men. And so the more that they can encourage each other, hold each other accountable to that, even if the encouragement just finish a book this year, but if you can do it with other people, hey, let's read this together, or let's do a book swap. I got a friend, we swap books regularly. Of I recommend this, you recommend that. So any of that, you can make it social, the more likely you are to do it. And I think especially for guys in any career, entrepreneurs or not, if you can rely on, glean from the wisdom of somebody else, you will make fewer mistakes. You'll be happier.
Yep. No, and that's what Sam, I mean, you explained exactly why Books for Guys is here, is to
Good.
encourage that discussion and that personal growth and bouncing those things that you learn off of each other as you read. And so I'm glad you brought that up. And if you're anything like me, I can't do audiobooks. So it takes me
Mm-mm.
I have to have a
Same.
physical book. Yeah. So it's different. It's harder for us. You have people that I read 100 books. Yeah, they
I know.
listen
Yeah.
to them.
I wish I could, man. I wish I could,
Same.
because then, yeah, I would crank through even more, and that's great. That's my mind will wander. I'll stop paying attention. I just can't. I like
Same.
the focus. I underline because I like to go back to them. But
Same.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's cool too. I'll get you off with this. It's Atomic Habits, and Good to Great. It's pretty amazing the high level, high achieving folks that I've had on this
Mm,
podcast who recommend that book.
that's funny.
There's
Yeah.
something to that. If that's a repetitive recommendation, if you haven't read it, you need to go read them because they make a huge difference and they do speak to you and help again with that personal development journey. And you can take things away from it. Probably every time you read it, there's something new you can pick up
Yes.
on it, which is really cool. But Sam, man, thank you so much for taking the time to do this and talk about
Of
the
course.
NEC and talk about the books that you appreciate and just again, thank you for recommending to read as a community. And that's what Books for Guys is. If you need a recommendation, go look on the website. We're constantly putting new recommendations on there, conversations with people like you, Sam, to talk about book recommendations and how it can help elevate your life. So I appreciate you sharing that personal message from yourself. But no, man, it's cool. I can't wait to see the continued growth of the NEC. Now that I'm here in Nashville and I know a lot about it and I'm meeting more people that are involved in it. And so, yeah, man, keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for taking the time to be a part of Books for Guys. Absolutely. Thanks, Sam.